Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about Opvs Contra Natvram, or perhaps it's Opvs Contra Natvram. I don't know. Here's what I do know. It's the 12th studio album from Polish black and death metal icons, Behemoth. Alright, I'm gonna just say it right off the bat for the sake of transparency. I really do love Behemoth. I think they're an awesome band. They're versatile, they're dynamic, they're heavy and brutal as fuck. They have one of the most consistent discographies in all of black or death or extreme metal. I mean, everything from Grom to Pandemonic Institutions to Satanica to Zosky Occultus to Demigod to Evangelion. It's all fucking fantastic. And this is before we even get to the commercial and critical darlings of The Satanist and I Loved You at Your Darkest, which together propelled Behemoth to a level of fame and success that, with all due respect to these other albums, they absolutely would not have seen without. The Satanist in particular is often regarded by fans and critics alike as a bona fide modern metal masterpiece, one of the best rock or metal albums of the 2010s, and perhaps one of the best metal albums of all time. I know I certainly would. I have sung that record's praises quite a few times on this channel. I named it one of my all-time favorite black metal albums in a video last year. With all this in mind, I imagine a lot of you are thinking, well, Robert probably loves this record then. This is probably one of his favorite albums of the fucking year. Probably gave it like a 4, 4.5, maybe even a 5 out of 5. What's the point in even watching this video? I'll go catch up on fucking She-Hulk or Rings of Power or that fucking Game of Thrones spin-off thing. Or maybe The Boys. I need to catch up on The Boys myself. I haven't seen a single new episode of this season. What am I doing here? I could be watching all this television. Watching all this media. What am I doing here right now? Well, I'll tell you what I'm here to do. Today, I am here to tell you that Opvs Contra Natvram, or whatever the fuck it's called, is okay, but ultimately, probably one of the most underwhelming records of 2022, and perhaps Behemoth's most disappointing record to date. Now, I did not by any stretch expect this album to reach the same cosmic heights of records like The Satanist, or even to a certain extent I Loved You at Your Darkest. Contrary to what some would like to believe, there's only so many times you can capture lightning in a bottle. But I did expect this album to, at the very least, be at the level of some older records, and it even falls short of that. The record ultimately feels like a competent, but slightly aimless and unintuitive retread of everything that Behemoth have already kind of done over the course of the past decade. Behemoth are going through the motions, if you will, making what they feel is expected of them rather than making something really new and exciting and developing their iconic sound. Tracks like Disinheritance, Neo-Spartacus, and Thy Becoming Eternal, and a couple more, quite frankly, ultimately feel like B-sides left over from The Satanist and I Loved You at Your Darkest. Reveling in a lot of the same ideas and in a similar kind of darkness, but lacking that same execution, that same excitement, that same atmosphere. The overall tone and vibe, and even the production value of this thing is eerily reminiscent of I Loved You at Your Darkest as well, channeling a lot of those same energies and atmospheres. Now, there are a few songs that do try to introduce some newer flavors and spices, and these, for the most part, are the tracks that work best here. The Deathless Sun, for instance, is a bleak and hopeless number filled with lots of dynamic percussion, and some cool, hectic guitar noodling, and these really, awesome, anguished, intentionally monotonous gang vocals. It's like a choir of depressed people who have just given up on life, and there's something kind of intense and powerful about that. Off to War also plays around with some interesting tempo changes, constantly building up a lot of drama and tension. True to the song's title, it literally does feel as if Behemoth are preparing for war. But even in these slightly more experimental deviations, things aren't perfect. Of My Herculean Exile, for instance, wants so badly to be this slow-paced, cinematic, blackened death metal burner that it completely forgets to be an interesting song. Put very simply, it spends a lot of time building tension and zero time delivering any actual catharsis. Similarly, the album's closing track, Versus Christus, is over 6 minutes long and just kind of bloated and slow-paced. Like, if this were tighter and better trimmed, it could be somewhat impactful, but unfortunately it isn't, and as a result, I end up leaving this record slightly hungry, you know? Like, my tummy's rumbling, I'm not full. I had a couple decent appetizers, but where's my entree? Behemoth themselves still sound great, there's clearly still a lot of juice in the tank, clearly still a lot of energy and enthusiasm to offer, bass, percussion, guitars, all great. Nurgle's voice as dynamic and as evil and as, you know, powerful as ever. He still sounds like a devil-worshipping madman frothing and raving at the mouth like a rabid animal, and I'm not gonna lie, that alone goes a long way in helping to further sell a lot of the material on this record. But it's still not quite enough. Like, throughout the entirety of this album, even in its best moments, I was saying to myself, man, I wish this thing were bigger. I wish this thing were more brutal. I wish it were more expressive. I wish it were more something other than just, like, you know, the microwave leftovers of previous albums. I'm gonna go with a 2.5 out of 5. It's okay. It's well made, don't get me wrong, but just like really uninspired. It doesn't do enough to really interest me, to really captivate me, to really capture and reward my curiosity and attention. If you are interested in this record, I would say check out the promo singles first, and then see how you feel, because if they don't do anything for you, there's a good chance that the rest of the record wouldn't either. I'm not really sure how metalheads are going to respond to this, because Behemoth has become a slightly divisive band in these past few years. If you're one of those people that thinks that Behemoth, and specifically records like The Satanist, are supremely overrated and overhyped, you're probably not going to dig this. If you're someone who loves the early records, you're probably not going to like this either. You'll probably find yourself wishing for something in the vein of, like, you know, Satanica, Thelema No. 6, anything like that. If you're a more casual death black metal listener who loves, you know, stuff like I Loved You at Your Darkest, you'll probably find a lot to enjoy, though. And honestly, if you were looking for a decent gateway into either genre, this would suffice just fine, honestly. Yeah, that's all I really got to say. There's good stuff about it, there's dumb stuff about it, stuff I liked, stuff I didn't like. You know, by no means terrible, by no means spectacular. It's just okay. That's it, really. 2.5 out of 5. Meh. Yeah. That's all. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.